What is up, guys? It is Jacob from QuadHunting, and this is a look at the free agents that the Lions have coming up this offseason. They have 28 free agents on the roster right now that are going into next year without a contract, and we're just going to kind of walk through the list. I'll give my thoughts on each individual person, and then later on I will put out videos of like needs, what the Lions need to focus on this offseason, those kind of things. So let's get into the list. Right now, we have one quarterback as a free agent. That's Dan Orlovsky, the main backup from last year. Now, we obviously knew this going into the season. That's why we drafted Jake Rudock as the potential replacement for Orlovsky. I do not think the Lions will re-sign him, and that's mainly because I think the Lions have faith in Rudock. I mean, they called him up to the main roster in the middle of the season because the Bears were trying to sign him off the practice squad. So they wanted to keep him away from the Bears because they obviously see they have something in Rudock and they like it, and they think they could eventually be a backup quarterback. I also think Dan Orlovsky wants to move more probably into the coaching role. There's rumors that he might be looking to go to UConn since his former head coach has now gone back there. That kind of thing. So I think Dan Orlovsky would be a great coach. I don't know how. I just don't, as a backup quarterback, I think he's fine. He'll never be a starter, that kind of thing, ever again. So, I mean, do what he wants to do. I don't think the Lions will re-sign him, basically because I think they want to move forward with Rudock. I mean, he might be there next offseason. They might sign him to like one of those one-year veteran minimum deals to him and Rudock battle throughout the preseason, but I think they're going to ultimately stick with Rudock. Drake Bell, I don't think gets re-signed. He got signed towards the end of the season. I don't think he comes back at all. Now, I have two guys I'm pretty sure will get brought back, and that's Anquan Boldin and Andre Roberts. That's assuming Boldin wants to come back. You saw how the Lions loved him. Stafford especially loved him in the third down red zone area. He still proved, even at 36 years old, he's got some stuff left to give to an NFL team. So if he wants to come back, not wants to retire, and wants to come back to Detroit, the Lions will bring him back. He played the role we needed him to play perfectly last year. I also do believe they bring Andre Roberts back. After a shaky start, he ended up having a pretty good season in the return game and even made some contributions in the passing game. So I think the Lions will try to bring him back. He's only 29 years old right now, and he's not going to fetch a huge contract. He's not going to demand a big contract. I think they can bring him back pretty cheaply, and then he'll fight in the preseason, and if the Lions find someone better, they can cut him cheap, and it won't cost them much. Tight end's kind of iffy. I'm not sure how, Ebron's our only tight end pretty much. Every other guy is kind of, not really that big of an impact guy. I do feel like they'll draft someone, so I'm not really going to focus much on here. But Clay Harbor, Matthew Mulligan, and Tim Wright I don't think are going to be on the team. Maybe Wright probably has the best chance of being on the team next preseason, but Mulligan is just a blocking tight end. I mean, he did make some plays, but nothing huge. And Clay Harbor was just a stopgap until Ebron got back. You didn't really see him much in the after Ebron was back. I do think they'll bring Tim Wright back. They've tried to keep the last couple of years trying to get him going. I think they'll try to try it one more time. He's only going to be 27 next year, so maybe they'll bring him back and let him back up Ebron next year. Now we go to offensive line, and there's two guys in particular, the guys were starters this year, Larry Warford and Riley Reif, right guard and right tackle. We have potential to lose that end of our starting line. I do think the Lions will try to bring both back. They'll want to kick some kind of, if you have the same starting lineup, the same starting line, it's going to be better. Instead of having to plug someone new in there and hope they get the system. Reif and Warford both know the system. The only problem with Reif, though, is he might try to demand left tackle money because some teams could view him as a good left tackle. He is not a bad left tackle. He's a pretty mediocre one as I see it. So it'll depend on how they want to, if he wants this left tackle money or if he's willing to take right tackle money to play for the Lions, keep playing for the Lions. Warford is kind of an interesting case. After his rookie season, he played great his rookie season, and then injuries have kind of derailed it. He's been pretty mediocre for the most part ever since his rookie season. Not as good there, so I don't know if the Lions I think will want to try to bring him back, but I just don't know if he comes back. I think it's going to be Reif or Warford. I don't think we're going to get both back. That's just a gut feeling. And then Garrett Reynolds, I don't think that we'll bring Garrett Reynolds back. I didn't hardly see him. I don't think I saw him in any of the games. I wasn't really paying attention to him much or seeing if he was on the field much. Moving to the defensive side, I think we bring Devin Taylor back. He's proven this year he's not starting material defensive end, but he is definitely a good rotational guy. He's someone who can who can you can put in there when the starter's tired, and he can get some snaps in. He definitely can play in that area, in that type of game, but he cannot play as a full-time starter. He's too much flash in the pan. He'll make a couple good plays, then he'll let off a couple bad plays. So he's definitely a guy you just want to be able to plug in and pull out when you need to. I don't know if we'll bring Armani Bryant back. He flashed there pretty good while we had him for the early part of the season. Then he got hurt. I think he's still got to deal with the suspension. I don't know if the Lions will I think the Lions might think that's just too much of a hassle, and I don't think he'll come back. Stephen Charles and Tyron Walker are both also free agents. Walker had a pretty bad season, so did Charles. They were both brought back, or Walker was brought back to kind of prove it. He got injured last year, and then Charles was brought in to kind of battle for reps. He ended up pushing Karen Reed, and what was the other tackle that we had at the beginning of the season? He ended up pushing both of those guys off the roster and ended up doing nothing all season. So that kind of sucks, but it's what happens in football. I don't think either of them will be back. I don't think either of them made a big enough impact to be brought back. Then linebackers, we have Jonathan Bostic and Josh Bynes. I'm really not sure if the Lions bring either of these guys back. Bynes was cut basically because he was injured, and then so the Lions had the plan to bring him back. It's not like he was cut and more injuries happened and the Lions brought him back. He was injured, Lions cut him, so they didn't have to waste the IR designation on him just in case Abdullah or Bostic could come back. So I don't really know which guy is going to be. I don't know if either of them are going to be brought back. If I have to go with my gut right now, I say Bynes is brought back, and Bostic might be brought back on a prove-it deal, like those one-year veteran minimum deal type deals. We also have Asa Jackson and Creston Butler back. I do not want either of them back. I don't want either of them anywhere near this team ever again. Jackson is awful in coverage, and Butler does not. He's got one play from 2 years ago against Green Bay that sealed the game for the Lions. I don't want either of them back. Raphael Bush, I'm maybe on him. I know the Lions like Tavon Wilson. Now he's pretty much a starter, and then they're hoping Miles Killebrew can stay or can get better. But after next year, we don't have any safeties locked up for 2018. So that's something we need to work on. You can bring Bush back maybe on a one-year deal also, but he played decently enough to warrant a comeback, but I don't know if the Lions view him as a long-term guy. And then we have the Bulldozer, Don Mulback. I think he comes back on a one-year deal. They did draft Jimmy Landis last year, and they want him to be the long snapper, but I think they'll bring Mulback back for just one more season, one more preseason battle with Landis. He got put on the IR, Landis did, in the preseason, which pretty much gave Mulback the job. He's not a bad long snapper by any means, 35 years old, still going strong, longest tenured Lion at this point. So I think he's brought back, and it's just for competition purposes. He'll fight out another preseason, and we'll see who wins between Landis and Mulback. And then we move to the restricted free agents, which is TJ Jones, Cornelius Lucas, Kyrie Thornton, and Brandon Copeland. I think all of them get brought back because they can all get brought back pretty cheaply. TJ Jones came back at the end of the season, and Stafford was going for him, wanted to get the ball to him, so he has potential there still. Cornelius Lucas is going to be a depth guy for pretty much his whole career, and he didn't look too bad in the start he got against Seattle. I think was the game he got. He did not look terrible. Looked better than Robinson did. So I think the Lions will try to bring him back. And then Kyrie Thornton, depth guy, rotational guy. Brandon Copeland is just he's their project guy, a linebacker who they moved to D end and then moved back to linebacker and then they moved back to D end. So he's a project guy. And if Terrell Austin comes back, I think he wants Brandon Copeland for some strange reason. Then we move to the exclusive rights free agents. These are guys who we give them a qualifying offer. If they take it, then they take it. They're no longer a free agent next year. But if they don't take it, then they have to sit out a whole season before a team can offer them a contract. I didn't know that about exclusive rights free agents, but that is what it says. Exclusive rights free agents can be offered a qualifying contract, which gives the team the sole rights to the player. If the player signs the contract, he is no longer a free agent. If he declines the offer, he must sit out the entire season. And those guys are Alex Carter, Kerry Hyder, and Barnes. Adarius Barnes. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I think Lions bring all of them back qualifying offers. Alex Carter is a guy they're hoping gets better. Barnes is a guy that had you saw they liked him there for a little bit, then he got hurt, and then they plugged in trash because they didn't have him. And Kerry Hyder is, of course, the most improved player on the Lions team this season, from a guy who no one really knew anything about in preseason until the last game to a guy who ended up leading the team in sacks. So they'll bring him back. He's got the wherewithal and the ability to play both D tackle and D end, so that'll be good. He's definitely a rotational guy though, so they need to find a starter, someone they can have him come in for, same as Devin Taylor. So those are our free agents this season. I would go more into positions that need depth, positions that need starters, free agent targets, depth, draft targets, those kind of things. So if you like the video, leave a like, leave a comment on the channel, subscribe to the channel, all that fun junk, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye.